and welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. Altered Carbon on Netflix. This has been a highly anticipated sci-fi series, and it was one that I was really looking forward to because of the initial trailers, and the first thing I could think of was Blade Runner. Now, this is actually based upon a book back in 2002. Now, before I go into this review, I will be leaving spoilers in this, and so the second half of my review will have spoilers, but I'll give you fair warning. And so if you have not seen this series, be sure to go check it out. Now, this is a 10-episode series, and in general, the whole world that is built here is that it's way in the future, and this person called Kovacs is actually brought back to life. And in this particular world, people don't necessarily die. They have these things called stacks, which they have in the back of their neck. And what this does is it basically retains their consciousness and all their memories up to that point. And so basically they are put into these artificial bodies, or maybe they're real bodies, okay? They're called sleeves, okay? So just think of it like androids, but with human bodies, okay? So the stacks are what actually make them human, okay? And so he's brought back into this world, doesn't know what's going on in terms of why he was brought back. And as you watch further into the movie, you'll understand why he was in this position. But then the whole movie or series actually turned into a hard-boiled crime detective drama. And so that is very similar to Blade Runner. Now, I'm going to talk about right away what I love about the series, okay? And then also I'm definitely going to get into the things that I didn't like. What I loved about this series is the environments, the atmosphere, and some of the special effects were really amazing. I love how they built this world. And when you look at it, this is absolutely Blade Runner. And as a matter of fact, if I actually look at it just from like everything that they built, the people that are all around, just everything that is around it, this is actually more Blade Runner than Blade Runner 2049. Because if you remember seeing Blade Runner 2049, in my opinion, there weren't as many people around the city, okay, when you're actually in the city. Whereas in this one, Altered Carbon, it was more like the original Blade Runner, where it was just full of people, high-rise buildings, so it really felt alive and populated. So that's the first thing that I really loved about the show. Now, the other things I did like about it, at least initially, was the actual whole idea of having this stack, okay, and being able to have, you know, like basically a limitless life, okay, through these sleeves. So that was a really interesting concept. This has been done many times before, but the way in which they did it here, I thought it was really interesting, at least at the beginning. And then the main actor that plays Kovacs, Takeshi Kovacs, is actually Joe Kinnaman. And if you remember him, he actually played RoboCop in the reboot of the RoboCop movie. And he does a good job in this movie. Or actually, I keep saying this is a movie, but I see it as one long movie. But in this whole series, he does a good job. Although I really feel like most of the actors and actresses in this movie, they're kind of limited in their roles. And I'll get into that a little bit further. And so what Kovacs' mission, or the reason why he's brought back in general, is he is supposed to solve a murder mystery of this ultra wealthy person, Bancroft, okay, and his wife Miriam. And so they've been around for hundreds of years. So has Kovacs. He's, I think, been around for more than 250 years. And so that's why with these stacks, they're able to live very long lives. But Bancroft gets killed, and he doesn't know why he gets killed. Because the way these things work is they actually save a portion of your memory, and then it gets uploaded. So, for example, if there was a time that something happened between that upload or before the upload, then they won't have those memories, okay? So that's why it's so important. And as you get into the show further, you understand how this is actually done, okay? And then as Kovacs, he is actually meets Bancroft. Actually, the first person he meets is this person right here, Ortega. She is a detective. And so that's where the whole hard-boiled detective element comes in here as well. Because a lot of the show, even though it starts off with Bancroft, there's many other murder mysteries in here as well, okay? And then Kovacs actually meets other characters. And my favorite character is Poe. And so you see what I mean. He's in a hotel called The Raven. That was my favorite character, and actually I think that was the best acting out of all the show, at least because of the way the character was written. And there's another character called Vernon. It's actually ex-Marine. And then you meet other related characters like Liz and so forth. And, you know, so basically you're going to meet all these characters, right? And they're all centered around initially the whole Bancroft character. Okay, that's kind of where it starts off. But as you get further, you delve into more of Kovacs, his background, him being a part of this group called the Envoy, Falconer, and then you get into that whole other story as well. So in a lot of ways, the whole show, there's a lot of things in the present, but there's also a lot of flashbacks as well. Because Kovacs and all these other people, having lived so many lives, they have different experiences. Okay, and so it's kind of like multiple stories at once, but the main story is Bancroft, Kovacs, and then everything else surrounds their stories. Okay, and even also the sleeves or the bodies that they are in. So as I'm watching this, I would say the first 4 episodes, maybe 5 episodes, they were really interesting. And I'd really say primarily first to the whole environment, the look of the actual series. I absolutely love the look of this. This is actually how I wish Blade Runner 2049 was, in terms of the visuals, in terms of having all the people in the world. But this is actually how I envision Blade Runner to be, okay, the sequel. But other than that, I didn't really get a lot of, I guess, entertainment out of it beyond the first 5 episodes. And this is where I get into the negatives. The first 5 episodes, you were drawn into this world. You didn't know what was going on. There is a lot of mystery there, and so that was good. But after that, it kind of just gets, I'm not going to lie, it gets boring. Okay, and especially when they go back to the whole past with the Envoy and Falconer, it just didn't really mesh well to me. Okay, and I will say another thing. This show is extremely violent, which is expected, but there is a lot of nudity in this, okay? Like full frontal nudity. So just to let you know right ahead. So I made sure that this particular episode doesn't have a lot of that, but just be aware that there is a lot of those 2 things in this show. So it's very gritty, very violent, okay? And very adult, okay? So let's just say that. But it adds to the whole atmosphere of this, okay? Now, other things that I didn't really enjoy about this is that after a while, I didn't really care about the characters. And that's extremely important that you have that in a show. And I'll get into more of that in the spoilers review. And so by the time it was done, it got a little bit better, but because it lost a lot of its pacing, the story just kind of went all over the place, I didn't really feel that whole satisfaction that I did in the first few initial episodes. Okay, so overall, in general, I think Altered Carbon, it was an okay series, which had a lot of great potential. Okay, and that's really the part where I was disappointed in it, is because it had a lot of great potential. However, it just didn't really mesh really well together. Okay, so that is my overall thoughts. Not a bad series, but it could have been amazing. Okay, so now let me get into the actual spoiler section. So warning, if you haven't seen it, go see it, okay, if you don't want to know the spoilers. So the things that I talk about, Kovacs, Falconer, and then his sister Rayla, or Ray in this case, their whole backstory with the Envoy, I found that really boring. And Falconer is supposed to be this amazing, basically legend, right? Living legend. And she was actually the one who created stacks and stuff. But as I'm watching this whole thing, it's like there's moments where it doesn't make sense. Like Kovacs or the Envoy, they're supposed to be these all-powerful elite people. But at times, they're very weak. And at times, they're super strong. That doesn't make sense. You're supposed to have all these senses and power. And it doesn't really, it doesn't go together, is what I'm saying. And then at some moments, like you remember Rayla, whenever Kovac's sister comes back in the future or in a modern age, and she takes out this whole team of just really horrible people, right? And she takes them all out. They're really strong, but yet Kovacs and Ortega together couldn't stop them together. That doesn't make any sense. And then later on, Kovacs is able to take out Rayla by himself, or even like Luang, or Lung, I think that was his name. He's an awesome lethal character, but yet Ortega was able to take him on by herself, even with her bionic arm. I get that, but there's a lot of inconsistencies there. And then the other side characters, I really did enjoy Poe, the artificial intelligence. I thought, that was the best part of it. I wish there were more characters like that. Now, Liz and Vernon's story, along with his wife, Ava, I think it was, it was good. I mean, I did like that part, especially like Vernon and Liz's relationship. But then when they brought in Ava and everything else, and then she became this Matrix-like warrior because she learned everything in the virtual world, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And I didn't really get into Rayla's story how when you find out that she's so powerful and she's been doing all these things behind the scenes. And then obviously when you find out in the end, the person who was really instigated was this person right here, Miriam, Bancroft's wife. And the whole Bancroft mystery thing, it wasn't worth it, is what I'm saying, and I really didn't enjoy their son. I can't remember the name or any of those other side stories. It was just, I don't know, made it more confusing. And even like Ortega's mom and this guy who's basically a father figure. I mean, at some points, I think that was her father, and he has a stack in there. But yeah, that, and then let me see, there was the police officer. I can't remember his name. I think it was Taka Nega or something like that. I can't remember. But, it's like these people, Bancroft, Rayla, and them, they have so much power, but yet the police is able to find something. They're able to put them down. It's like inconsistencies like that, okay? And then, as I said, after the first 5 episodes, it's, 4 episodes, it gets boring. And it gets boring because the whole part in the past where they jump back, we're showing Takeshi Kovacs, his relationship with his sister, with Falconer and the rest of the people, it just was not necessary, and Falconer keeps coming back over and over to talk to Kovacs in these visual, I guess, dreamlike sequences, or not dreamlike, where he's hallucinating and she's still there, okay? I didn't enjoy that much at all. She didn't really serve much of a purpose at all. And then, by the end of it, after you find out everything, like I said, the payoff wasn't really worth it. And even the way that he died, he has like a double sleeving that lost its momentum as well, because technically, they're not really alive except for the stacks. And so, yeah, so those are the things that I didn't really enjoy about it. I mean, the characters, finding out what they are, finding out who actually done it, there was not a payoff there in terms of the character growth. And I think this might be limited to the way it was written. They're very like cookie cutter. Okay, so Kovacs, unlike something like a Harrison Ford, the way it was written for him, he's not a very complex character, as much as they like to put him out, And then Bancroft and Miriam, I didn't really care at all, that's the main thing. I didn't really care about the characters. That's the main point of it, Besides some of Kovacs, I did want to know more about him, but I was really more interested in characters like Poe or even Vernon, okay? Those were more interesting characters to me. So I think if they actually did another Altered Carbon, maybe a follow-up, and I know it is based upon the book, so maybe it was trying to stay close to the book. If they could get more out of the whole cookie-cutter type storylines and maybe focus more on the characters, focus more on this whole world building, I'm really interested in this world, and stay less away from the past and Envoys, I think it would have been a lot better. So those are my spoilers. There might be more things, but those are the main things that I thought about. I do like the concept. I do love the world building that was created here in Altered Carbon, but everything else, it was like average, for the most part, average and predictable. So that's it for my full review of Altered Carbon. If you had any thoughts in this show, whether it's good, bad, what did you think of it compared to other type sci-fi shows, or even greats and classics like Blade Runner, I'd like to know all your ideas down there as well. So as always, if you did enjoy these videos, you got value out of them, be sure to subscribe. And if you did want to support my channel further, you could do that at patreon.com/Geek Outdoors. Thanks for checking out this episode. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com, and I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.